So welcome back to Kalakuta Radio. As promised, we are back with more news and more information from the Kalakuta Diaries. But before we go into the topic of the day, which is about how Fela's passport was actually stolen by the British government, I want to talk about the impending elections coming up next weekend. It's very important that you guys go out and vote. And it's very important also that you keep in the back of your mind what Fela said about life. The secret of life, according to Fela, is not to have fear. They are going to try to intimidate you guys, from going out to vote. Don't ever succumb to intimidation. Because if you fear, you already lost everything. The secret of life, according to Fela and Kuti, is not to have fear. This is something very, very fundamental to your existence. And then you go out and vote. I don't want to say, guys, you should vote for. You have about 18 candidates, as I know, on the ballot. Although two of them has practically cancelled themselves out, if we are to look at it from the logical point of view. But you see, there's nothing logical about Nigeria. First of all, I don't fucking understand how you guys will vote a guy in 2015, a guy that locked Fela up in prison. First of all, if you are genuine, you can never lock Fela up in the prison. That is to tell you the kind of mindset this guy had. But anyway, you all should be glad he's getting out of Asura in the next couple of months. That is the only good news I can tell you as emanated from the last 8 years. People packaged this worry of a guy as the next best thing that happened after sliced bread to you guys in 2015. And you all swallowed the bait, hook, line, and sinker. I don't know, it's my imagination how Nigerian school believe that this guy with antecedents would be the much sought Messiah, which is really funny because it's like something is fundamentally wrong with the memories of Nigerians. As a matter of fact, the first time this guy showed up on the political scene, he ran Nigeria in a couple of months into a recession. The last time I remember was me telling all the people I knew that if you guys have anything, any iota of memory left in you, you will know that this guy is not going to change a damn thing. As a matter of fact, it all got worse. You cannot deny the fact that Nigeria is today worse than it was in 2015. I don't want to praise anybody. Jonathan's government, like they said, was not up to task. Okay. But you agree with me, Jonathan's government is 1,000 times better than this one we had in the last 8 goddamn years. And so I hope you guys don't want to repeat the mistake of voting in a mannequin as your next president. It's up to you. The decision is yours. Nobody's going to tell you what you're going to do or what you don't do. You are adults. You've been living in the country. You've gone through hell, I know. And you don't want this to keep on repeating itself. So do the right thing. Vote the right person. I don't think there's any perfect person amongst the 18 candidates, but like I already said, 2 of them have already cancelled. They practically invalidated themselves out of the running. Like Fela said in his song, Authority Stealing. That's what we've been hearing in a couple of weeks. You be thief, I not be thief. You be rogue, I not be rogue. You be robber, I not be robber. You be ammo robber, I not be ammo robber. You dey steal, I not dey steal. It has been in and here, like the Germans will say, somebody giving and the other one receiving and replying in the same vein. And these are completely, in my own opinion, invalidated 2 of the foremost candidates, practically taking themselves out of equation, out of the presidency by accusing and counter-accusing themselves and bringing out the worst part of themselves in public view. In any sane society, these people, if they had any decency, would not even be on the ballot because they've exposed each other's backside. And what's it left for Nigerians? Normally, we had serious, responsible institutions. These guys would have been taken out of the equation, which should have made the whole election issue even easier. But no, we're not a regular, sane society. No, we're not. And this is what Fela was fighting about all the while. But one thing I'm going to repeat, for the 10th time now, you shouldn't entertain any fear. Let nobody bamboozle you. Let nobody disenfranchise you. You need to go out and vote. It is your civic responsibility, and that is what you need to do. Nobody's coming to do it for you. People already said before, because they all wanted, I said this, I told Fela once, after they were driven out, the poor people were driven out of Morocco, and they were all marching down to Kalakuta. And I said to Fela, why these people always want somebody else to do their fight or die their death. And so when they came, Fela said, listen, this governor did not break my own house. It's your houses he broke. So if you want to do something about it, you'll be marching towards the government house, not to my house. Enough about the election. Let's talk about Kalakuta. So, first of all, to give you the background of my relationship with the different embassies in Nigeria, because when we go on tour, I was usually in the middle of the protocol and processing arrangements. So I was usually going to the embassies with either Olukoyimo coming in from New York, was Fela's agent in New York, or people from our office in Antony that was being run by Dr. Bekor and some Kuti himself. I had the privilege of going to the embassy most of the time, British and American embassies, or some other European embassies, as the case may be at the time. But one thing for sure I never liked was the way the Nigerian blue and blue wearing local security guards were treating the Nigerians, especially for the fact that they know these guys were all desperate to get visas and get out of the country. The most humble time you're going to find in Nigerian is when they go to the embassies. I was kind of irritated seeing Nigerians being asked to stand or sit like they were zombies. Okay, somebody said probably because I had the privilege of knowing that my or the group visas I came to pick up would not be denied because they were never applied for in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, those visas were working permits. I would just go to the embassy to pick them up. We never went there with musicians or dancers or singers. No, you don't want to have Fela's gang group coming into, Kalakuta people coming into your embassy. Because those people didn't give a damn about whether it was British or American embassy. No, they're going to do their thing. So to avoid the stress, I think we were even doing the embassies the favor of not bringing all these people to the embassies. So I was usually going there. I already had a situation with the British embassy. That was in 1989 already, where the uniform-wearing Nigerian security guard tried to abuse me inside the embassy because I was taking a lot of forms. Because we are making applications for about 50 people. So, of course, you have to take 50 forms. It's not a small thing. But the thing was that I think God deemed it necessary to ask me why I was taking in so much forms with me. So as I was trying to take the forms, put them into the leather bag that Imo came with, Olukoyimo, the last agent in New York. I was trying to put this form there, and this guy just came and shouted, "Wah, wah, wah," because he thought probably I was a fraudster, a con man that was just gaining traction in Nigeria at the time, so-called 419 guys. So instead of him to ask me why I was taking so many forms, instead of just one, this guy just hit the forms off my hand violently. And of course, I'm a Kalakuta man. It was just a reflex. Without even looking at him, I gave him the one we call the Kalakuta slap. Toes are with the backhand. So if you've been to Kalakuta, you understand what I mean. And then the guy staggered back, and a colleague of his heard him from falling. And of course, the rest of his blue and blue wearing Nigerian security guards came charging. And of course, Imo was there. Imo is like 2 meters tall, and then Imo stepped in front of me and said, "What the fuck you guys want?" And of course, because of this fracas, the white British chief of security showed up immediately and was totally surprised that the fracas like that could happen inside the British embassy. He was asking, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "Ask the man you gave blue and blue uniform." And he said, "Yes, what happened?" And the man said, "He slapped me." That was his response. The white guy turned and looked at me. "You slapped him?" I said, "You didn't ask him what he did to me before I slapped him." He looked at me, it was like, it was kind of uncomfortable for him, but it was really comfortable for me. But he looked at me in surprise, like, where the hell is a Negro going to have this kind of guts to slap somebody inside the British embassy? And he asked me who I was, and I told him and demanded for an identity. So I showed him my identity card and said, "Yeah, what really happened?" I said, "Actually, because of our impending tour, I came to pick up visa forms." And that was exactly what I was doing, taking the forms and putting them in a bag when this guy came out of nowhere, hit my hand with the forms without asking me what I was doing, why I needed to take the forms. Of course, it was a reflex, the way we react in Kalakuta. And the guy asked the security guard, "Is it true what he said?" He said, "Yeah, I saw him taking a lot of forms." And said, "Yeah, did you ask him why he was taking those forms?" He said, "No." And he just hit him. I said, "Okay." The British guy apologized to me and said, "Okay, please take the forms," and told the other man to should be more circumspect in dealing with people, not just jumping to the conclusion that everybody that comes to the embassy is a criminal. That was the background I wanted to give. I was already known, not in the British embassy alone, even in the American embassy, because I'm not the guy that's going to shy away from a fight if you try to disrespect me because you are wearing some goddamn blue and blue uniform. On this particular event, with regard to Fela's passport, we had a tour coming up in 1990, European and American tour. So we needed to pick up British visas because there was no Schengen visa at the time. The first two countries we were going to, we needed to have the British visas and the Belgian visas. So what usually happens is like these visas are applied for not by us in Nigeria. No, the visas are applied by the agencies in wherever, in England or America or wherever. So when they have this whole thing done, they send the list back to us and say, okay, these visas have been approved. Somebody goes to the embassy and picks it up. So I go there with 45, 50 passports and we give it to them, we make payments, and we come back a day or two later and pick up the passports with the visa stamped in them. But in this particular case, because Margaret Thatcher was having serious political problems back home. And for the fact that Fela has this basket mouth and had the habit of attacking everybody he felt was responsible for the problems we had in Africa, especially in Nigeria. So he was always going to attack Margaret Thatcher and his government anytime we got to England. And the authorities there felt that it was very, 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 very hard or dangerous to have Fela around at this time because Margaret Thatcher was under serious heat. So we go. I went with Imo the next day and we submitted the forms and the passports and made the payments and whatever. The lady, there's a particular lady at the counter, Miss Norman, I don't forget her name. She said they haven't gotten the fax from their home office for the visas, that we need to come the next day. I said, okay, we're going to come back the next day. So next day we go there. She was still telling me that they still haven't gotten the visa. I said, but that can't be right because according to the agency in London, everything with the visa was already clear. How come you people don't have the fax? She said, yeah, probably it's going to come in any time and we should just wait. So I went to sit down with Imo and we were waiting there because the thing was, we still needed to go to the Belgian embassy and we still needed to go to Sabina Airlines for the tickets. After waiting there for like an hour, I was getting really jittery. We had this time frame that we did not want to exceed at the time we already budgeted for the British embassy. So I said to him, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell this lady that if the fax they are expecting is not there, I want to have the passports back so we could go over to Sabina, book the tickets, and then go over to the Belgian embassy and stamp the Belgian visas. Then we can come back. But I don't know when these people eventually going to accept that they have the facts, so we don't waste the whole day at the British embassy. And Mo agreed and said, yeah, you're right. So I go up to the counter and I said, okay, Miss Norma, you know what? I need to have those passports back. She said, why? I said, of course, I have other things to do. I'm not going to waste the whole of the day in your embassy. Give me back your whole passport, and then we'll go do the Sabina airline tickets thing. We'll do the Belgian embassy thing, the Belgian visas, and then we can come back when we are done in the afternoons, and then you can take all the time you have in the world to wait for your fax. And then tomorrow we'll come pick up passports with the visas and them. And she gradually went inside, and then when she came back out, I was still conversing with her because she pushed the whole bunch of passports through on the counter, and the Imo was there with his leather bag, and he was the one counting the passports. And I said, Imo, are we done with the passports? Is everything okay? Is it clear? Because what we gave them was for 45 passports, and Imo said, yeah, everything is there. But there was a trick they did. Because we had some cases of people, a lot of people have already done so many tours with Fela. And so they had 2 or sometimes 3 passports all sticked together. So what the British they did was to make that 45 number complete. They separated one that was double, that was clipped together as double. They separated it. So instead of Imo to check each individual passport, Imo was just counting the passport and he said to me, 45, they are complete. And I said, okay, believing that the passports were there, I never for once believed that they would get so desperate as to steal Fela's passport. So the next thing is we go to Belgian embassy because what we usually do with the Belgian side is we request for a group visa. So that means they have a whole list of the 45 people on a list and they're going to put a single visa stamp on this list. and they put an attaching visa on the leader of the band. So we get to the Belgian embassy, we're in the office, we're sitting with this guy because they have a more receptive personnel, staffs at the Belgian embassy. We even sit with the protocol officer in his office. And there was this guy that was going through the passport and discovered that Fela's passport was not there. And I said, what do you mean? He said, Fela's passport is not there. And I looked at him and said, you told me you had everything. And he said, yeah, I counted it was 45. You counted it. You did not check to make sure Fela's passport was there. He said, no, he never thought about, oh shit. So what did we do? First, I said to the guy, okay, see what we're going to do. We're going to make a list, leave the list as it is. But instead of you putting the group visa on Fela's passport, together with the visa on the list, you put this visa on the passport of the band leader, Lekan Animashan, Babani. So we now had to put a visa on Babani's passport. So all we needed to do was to get Fela a passport. Because I was damn sure that we were not going to ever get that Fela's passport back at the embassy. But anyway, I said to the guy, you'll be doing this, Imo, you stay here and collect the visas when it's ready. Now I'm going to the British embassy. As at the time I'm saying, it was already past 2 in the afternoon, but the embassy was still supposed to be open. And then I rushed back to the British embassy. Everywhere, funny, everywhere was locked up. Everything was locked up. No single blue wearing security guard outside, nobody. Nobody to talk to. It was completely dead place. So I go back to the Belgian embassy and I pick up Imo and we go back to Kalakuta. At that time, Fela is usually asleep. So I said, Imo, I have to go quickly to Dr. Kuti, to Dr. Becker's office and let him know what just happened. Went and told Becker. And of course, Becker informed the elder brother, Professor Koye, who was the Minister of Health at the time. And the whole of them made every effort. Becker went there. They said they don't have Fela's passport. Professor Koye went there. They said they don't have Fela's passport. Even the Belgian ambassador went to the British embassy. They told him they didn't have Fela's passport. Because the guy was literally like worried. He went there and said, listen, they couldn't have come to our embassy and threw Fela's passport by themselves away on the road. So you guys must have it. How come this passport that was supposed to be was stuck together was now separated to make the numbers complete? They said they didn't have a passport. So eventually, I said to Fela, Percy, you know what? These people, they think they are smarter than everybody. But I did the Belgian group visa on Babani's passport. So that means all we need now is to get you a passport as fast as we can. So we had to go to Abuja. That will be a topic for another day. How we went to John Shagaya's office. He was Minister of Interior Affairs at the time. The guy who was the permanent secretary, Ministry of Internal Affairs. That was the guy that actually saved the day. And we'll talk about the reception and how hell broke loose in Abuja when we got to their offices. But anyway, to conclude this episode, after they claimed that they didn't have Fela's passport, and we eventually still made it to England, whether they liked it or not. Next year, I got to pick up the visas for the next tour, and this time we gave them 50 passports. And when I went there to pick up the passports, they gave me the whole passport, and this time I wouldn't even move away from the counter. I'm standing in front of this goddamn woman, I'm counting the passport and checking every goddamn passport one after the other. And eventually I found this passport that they said they did not have. They did not take away from the passport the year before. I found it among the passports that was returned to me. Fela's passport suddenly became 2. I looked, Fela? When I discovered it was the passport from the year before that they stole and they said they didn't have it. So when I said, I wanted to scream on the woman, hey, Miss Norma, you said you did. I turned, hey, the woman had disappeared. I was ranting, raging in front of the counter. Motherfucker, you told me you didn't steal this passport. Where the hell did this passport just suddenly come from? But of course, Margaret Thatcher was no longer in power. Who the hell is going to keep the passport among the officials there? And did not have the decency to apologize. He just put it amongst, like smuggled it among, like he won't know. He's just going to take the whole passport. No. Once beaten, twice shy. So I was raging in front of the counter there and cursing, and nobody even bothered to come out and say, hey, you are noisy. Oh, why are you making so much noise? And I looked back, regularly all the Nigerians, they'll be sitting so damn straight. Everybody is trying to look like a gentleman or a gentlewoman because they're inside the British embassy. And they were all staring at me. What the hell is wrong with this guy? He's not going to get a visa, they were sure. And what they did not know was I already had the whole passports there stamped with all the visas. And so at the end of the day, I said, yeah. You British guys, you can kiss my black ass. And I put the passports in the bag, put it on my shoulder. And as I was leaving the embassy, I said, about 3 or 4 guys were trailing me all the way because they could not understand why this guy could get all those visas, why he could be ranting inside the embassy and nobody would dare to tell him anything. And they trailed me until the taxi I took dropped me off at Kalakuta, and then you saw the old people overtaking and driving away quick. Oh shit, this is Fela's place. Oh, that's why. Because one of them came up to me later, the Yabish Night show, and said, listen, I was at the embassy. I actually trailed you with my friend because we wanted to ask you if you could help us with a visa because we saw how much passports you took out of that place with visas and how you were ranting. Nobody dared come out to even tell you to lower your voice or even challenge you. I was laughing my head off. I said, yeah. And then you trained me, and then what happened? Yeah, they saw the place you disembarked from the taxi, and the driver said, that's my Fela house. I said, aha. So, and then we sped away because we were scared. Yeah, so I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Kalakuta Radio because we'll be calling it a day right now. As always, don't forget to subscribe and push the notification button because we'll definitely be coming back your way. Most probably after the elections. Igby, wine. Peace out.